Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call to order the Arvada City Council meeting for today, Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. I will call upon Councilmember Rupert for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Good evening. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. And for the pledge.
Ms. Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Simpson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Here.
Councilmember Ambrose.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Piper.
Here.
Councilmember Marriott.
Here.
Councilmember Rupert.
Here.
Thank you very much. Next we have the approval of the minutes for March 24th, 2025. Are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, those stand approved. We have no recognitions or presentations this evening, so I will move us directly into public comment for items not scheduled on this evening's agenda. Quickly, I just want to confirm, because we had a box check, Ms. Carol Rose, yours says it's for the annexation on 64th, so you wish to speak on an agenda hearing item, correct? Not at 6:15, so the hearing will begin once we move through public comment and then the resolutions. So while I can't say exactly, I'm going to guess it's probably maybe an hour, a little under. So, but you do want to speak on the hearing item? So how public comment quickly works is the beginning public comment is for items not on this evening's agenda. So if it's for the hearing item, it needs to wait for the public comment during the hearing. There will be others involved with the project who should give a presentation. So we'll have the presentation, then public comment, and then council deliberation on that particular hearing item. I'm sorry, what? Unfortunately, yes, a little bit. But you'll get to see civic discourse in action, so stick with us. So with that, I will go ahead and open for not related on the agenda. For those of you who may be new to public comment, as we always say, we like for you to keep your comments directed to us. This is your opportunity to speak to City Council. Please keep your comments directed to us, not to others who may be in chambers. We always ask for respectful decorum, so no clapping, no booing, or anything like that. And in addition, please know that City Council does not respond to public comment at this time, so if you ask us a question, we can't respond in real time. However, we will have somebody get back to you if there's a follow-up item. So with that, I will call up Karen Kelling.
Good evening, Council. Karen Kelling, 7256 Juniper Way, Arvada, Colorado. So I've been the director of Mission Arvada for about 6 years now. Mission Arvada is a day shelter, a navigation center, food pantry, and an overnight extreme weather shelter. We are also a Christian ministry of the Rising Church. We serve about 75 individuals daily, providing for the most basic human needs of food, warmth, bathroom access, social connection, and above all, human kindness. Enrollment requires clients to follow all laws and uphold a strict code of conduct in order to maintain access to our services. This helps safeguard the well-being of our community. At Mission Arvada, we host medical clinics, dental clinics, mental health providers, legal assistance, employment programs, and case management towards stability and sustainability for long-term housing. We help over 50 people obtain housing each year, whether it be through reunification with family, long-term rehab, work programs, subsidies, or private rentals. Over the course of a year, we serve about 900 unique unhoused individuals. 1 out of every 7 grew up right here in Arvada, Colorado. They were once children here in our own community. We help people who have experienced trauma. Many are disabled or elderly. Many struggle with addiction, yes, and mental health disorders. Whatever personal struggles have contributed to their homelessness, the fact remains that none can afford rent. The fact remains that none can get back on their feet by themselves. The truth is that Mission Arvada is underfunded and overburdened. There are many who speak loudly against us. There are many more who overlook our work, failing to recognize the depth of our impact. But while others who squabble and complain, drag their feet, and shift the blame, the 300-plus volunteers of Mission Arvada are rolling up our sleeves and doing the hard work that nobody else will do. Every day, we open our doors to the poor, the hurting, the addicted, the marginalized and forgotten people living on the streets of Arvada. We address the root causes of homelessness and the complex needs to help resolve it. We promote the dignity and self-sufficiency of every person. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will welcome Keith Cowling.
Hello, Council. My name is Keith Cowling. I live with Karen Cowling at 7256 Juniper Way in Arvada. We've been Arvada residents for over 30 years. I am the finance director at the Rising Church and also Mission Arvada. And I wanted to remind the council that we had a meeting back in August, and at that time there was talk with the ECA building. And although that did not materialize, there was talk about utilizing that building for extreme weather shelter, knowing that the severe weather shelter network was closing down. I don't remember the exact timing of that, but we had some discussions with staff, and again, there was consideration and led to believe that that was a possibility, that building would be used for extreme weather shelter. Well, the fact that it didn't happen, the Rising Church in Mission Arvada stepped up to do that. And in fact, tonight is the 45th night that we are doing extreme weather shelter. The forecast was for winds, cold weather, and precipitation. So tonight was planned to be a night for extreme weather. What I wanted to bring up was that last year, the Severe Weather Shelter Network, which is a nonprofit Christian ministry, was provided $40,000 by the city of Arvada for overnight shelter. And I'm just asking that the council would give that same consideration to Mission Arvada of the Rising Church, just based on there are a lot of expenses. As Karen mentioned, we have a lot of volunteers, but there's food, there's utilities, there's facilities, there's a lot of things that go into operating that, and thankfully we have a lot of volunteers, but any consideration that you guys would have for providing funding for us would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie Lee.
Hello. My daughter is a first grader at St. Anne's, and I am here to express my deep concerns for the growing homeless population surrounding her school. This is not just an abstract issue. It has directly impacted her and her classmates. In fact, one of her closest friends was one of the young children who was offered something through the fence by a mission member. Please let that sink in. Week after week, we hear more and more about issues, and they become more and more alarming. And it is one thing to read about these issues from a distance, but to personally know a child who has been affected makes the situation even more concerning. I fully acknowledge that this is a complex issue and nuanced, and there is not a simple solution that will satisfy everyone in the community. But as leaders, your role is not to please everyone. Your primary responsibility is to protect the most vulnerable among us. And I think we can all agree there is no population more innocent and defenseless than our children. Your continued inaction on this issue will have serious and lasting consequences for our community. While I recognize that solutions are not easy, Merely increasing police presence without a clear, actionable plan has done little to change the environment around the school. I implore you, as our elected representatives, to take meaningful action. We need a concrete plan, something beyond simply adding law enforcement. The community has been patient. We have given you years to address this issue, and now is the time to act before something truly tragic happens. If that happens, it will be your inaction that you will look back on with regret. We are begging for leadership, for solutions, for action. Our children's safety is not negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Holland.
David Holland, 13815 West 58th Drive. After speaking at the last council meeting 2 weeks ago, I sent a follow-up email after we had 3 separate police incidents at the school. 2 days following that meeting, I'd like to thank Mayor Simpson and Council Member Marriott for your replies. And I know you guys were forwarding the emails around because Don Wick also came and took his time to tour the St. Anne's campus with us. While on that tour, we did find pieces of a hypodermic needle on the sidewalk directly connected to the school. And during my volunteer time walking the playground, also saw lots of other unsettling interactions with homeless individuals there. Again, we're not here to complain about the mission of the mission or the rising, but we just want to have action to address how it's affecting the Shrine of St. Anne's School and the children. Again, I want to share pieces of an email from another mother who couldn't make it tonight. Her son has expressed that he feels unsafe at school based on the experiences. We need to have compassion with these individuals as they are someone's children, parents, siblings, and all children of God and wonderfully made. However, it is hard to cultivate empathy with these children when they feel threatened by the people yelling obscenities, violent threats, or trying to hand them things through the fence. We've had multiple issues with people nearby hallucinating or acting unstable, along with threats of violence. We've had multiple instances where people have been passed out drunk outside the school doors, on and on. We ask you guys, we ask the council or anyone who can assist us in the city to assist us in doing something about this. Again, to bring it back to my comments at the last time, you can't sell alcohol within 500 feet of a school, not because a bar is an intrinsically evil institution or anything like that, but how it affects the children and the school and the community nearby. This is a clear safety issue for the Shrine of St. Anne's School that we would like addressed, and I'm open to working with anyone who can guide me, direct me, or provide guidance on how to improve this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Butterfield.
John Butterfield, local native of Arvada, grew up here for the past 33 years. I also have a child, multiple children attending the Shrine of St. Anne's School, and I'm just here in support of our school and our community to do something to help the situation. Growing up in Arvada, I used to go through Old Town Arvada all the time just as a kid riding bikes, and I don't think I'd let my children do what I did down there today. It's different, and I just ask for your support in finding a resolution and creating that safe boundary that we feel is necessary around the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom McCahill. Oh, apologies. I see that this is also for the 64th Street annexation, so I will move that to the other hearing. Next, we have Mike Engel.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Engel. I'm at 11252 Benton Court. I'm a parent from two children that attended St. Anne's. My daughter spent 8 years at St. Anne's. My son currently is there, and he's been there for 7 years. I'm a resident of Arvada for 32 years. The last 8 years, I have watched the deterioration of the security in Old Town Arvada, specifically around the school. I used to drop my kids and never worry all day long that something might happen to them. The last 3 years, I constantly look at my texts and my emails to see if something's happened at the school. I don't know how many times I've received texts to this year that all the kids have been rounded up into the building because the police have their guns outside with some individual. We got people that are putting stuff through the fence. I mean, it's really gotten out of control. I never would have believed this. I'm here for help. The school, we're not sitting behind. We're putting in cameras. We've got parents that patrol the recess area. We're doing everything we can to try to keep the school and the kids safe. I'm here to just say, we need your help. Can you join us? And the last thing I want to see, I want to be a positive person, but the last thing I want to see is open up my phone and find out that some child got hurt. That's going to be the worst thing that all of us have to deal with. So I just want to know what your plan. We need a plan. We can't figure it all immediately, but we've got to do something. We need to move forward. And as parents, we're moving forward. We're doing things that we can do to try to protect our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have Pat Malone.
Hi, my name is Pat Malone. I live at 6273 Kilmer Loop in Arvada. The treachery of Donald Trump's hate for anyone who's not a straight white male is despicable. And one of the thousands of ways this is manifested is in his aggressive plan to detain and deport millions of people who do not meet his standard of being a person with value. There's a variety of ways to show that you care and support immigrants. Right now, there's a petition for the release of Jeanette Vizgara, an Aurora woman who was picked up Monday by ICE without a warrant at her work. She's a community leader, a mother, and a grandmother. She's been fighting her own deportation since 2009 and is a permanent resident with American-born children. This afternoon, I sent the petition to each of you in the hopes that you will find signing this a way to show your support of immigrants. Today, I also looked at the community/about Arvada section on the website, city's website. Under the 2024 survey heading, I learned that, quote, perceptions of equity vary by race and gender identity, highlighting opportunities to continue to build inclusivity, end quote. I also read that 45% of respondents believe the city is responsive to their priorities. Presumably, this means 55% do not believe the city is responsive to their priorities. I hope the city is actively pursuing ways to improve these survey responses. I'd like to suggest one way. Though the bi-monthly Arvada report is a useful institutional communication, I strongly encourage each of you to find more personal ways to communicate with your constituents. Councilman Moorman does this with a wonderful newsletter that updates us on important local things, such as the ongoing Navigation Center saga and the current status of the city manager hiring process. He also has a monthly coffee, and this month has pulled together a District 1 town hall. This is being in touch with the people who live here and voted you into office. I hope that you will each consider some version of this help to build trust throughout every district. Once trust is built, in the case of our resident immigrants, sharing protection resources would be accomplished more easily and less publicly, which is now a concern in our environment where no one feels safe. Thank you for letting me suggest again ways in which Arvada can demonstrate its concern for all residents.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers this evening that would like to give public comment at this time? Please come forward.
Good evening. Mindy Moore, 11570 West 70th Place. I just want to take a broad look at a lot of the comments that you've heard, and I know you've heard from me many times already. When the severe weather shelter network was operating, they would house people in churches overnight. Several of these churches were in Old Town, Cornerstone Church, Arvada Vineyard. So it was not just Mission Arvada helping the housing insecure or the homeless over the years. I also want to speak in support of Mission Arvada for taking on the role when the city could not or did not move forward with establishing a navigation center and shelter in time for this winter. And it's very possible you may not have one for the winter starting this coming November. So I'm fully supportive and hope you will consider using the discretionary funds that you previously gave to the Severe Weather Shelter Network to help Mission Arvada defray the costs of what they have stepped up to do. I was volunteering there this morning again, signing people up for overnight shelter. I've volunteered for many years, and they truly care about people, and they do keep the people that they serve accountable. They cannot be held responsible for the bad apples that are coming, that are not going into Mission Arvada necessarily, but are doing dangerous things. And my heart goes out to the parents, and I'm a mother of two myself. My heart goes out to them and what they're facing as well. But it's really beholden on our city, as you've heard, to come up with a plan to take action. This weekend I sent you pictures of a shelter, the All Roads shelter in Boulder. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's open 24/7. It has places for people to store their belongings, to stay, so they don't have to be outdoors. And I imagine that they have some types of agreement with the Boulder police to keep that area safe. There's a lovely, lovely single-family homes, a street or two west of it. It's not impacting the neighborhoods negatively. Please, look at what's being done in other communities and how Arvada can move forward quickly and responsibly to meet the needs of all your residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment for this period of the meeting, and I will move us into new business. We have one item on this evening's consent agenda, and that is R25-026, a resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Arvada and the Triple M Construction, LLC, for construction of ADA ramps and concrete replacement in an amount not to exceed $1,826,966. Councilmember Ambrose? No. I need a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda items R25-026.
Perfect, thank you. Councilmember Davis, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this submission to staff. I actually drove around and looked at some of the areas that are in need of, yeah, I'm that council person, in need of repair and action, and I'm very thankful that you're moving forward with this.
Thank you. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Next, we have our resolutions. We have R25-027, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for Community Development Block Grant CDBG funding in the amount of $458,033. Ms. Espinoza, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, requires all entitlement communities receiving CDBG funds to prepare and submit a consolidated plan every 5 years to establish a unified strategic vision for economic development, housing, and community development actions. The consolidated plan encompasses the analysis of local community needs and coordinates appropriate responses to those needs and priorities. The consolidated plan is carried out through annual action plans, which provide a concise summary of the actions, activities, and the specific federal and non-federal resources that will be used each year to address the priority needs and specific goals in the consolidated plan. The City of Arvada uses CDBG to support the Essential Home Repairs Program and the Human Services Grant Program on an annual basis. The grant has also been used to support larger projects such as park and sidewalk improvements, and to support low and moderate income housing projects. On December 4th, 2023, the Arvada City Council approved Resolution R23-112, approving the submission of the 2024 CDBG Annual Action Plan to HUD to allocate funds made available in the 2024 funding agreement. HUD has issued the 2024 funding agreement for signature. Approval of this resolution would allow the city to use CDBG to reimburse 3 nonprofit organizations funded through the Human Services Grant Program, as well as Brothers Redevelopment for the projects completed through the Essential Home Repairs Program and CDBG administrative costs. The city team recommends approval of this resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you. I will make the motion if there aren't any questions.
I see no other lights.
Thank you. I move that R25-027, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, funding in the amount of $458,033 be approved.
Thank you. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Ms. Espinoza, I'm assuming you have the next 2 items as well? Yes. Thank you. We'll open for R25-028, a resolution revising and adopting bylaws for the Arvada Housing Advisory Committee.
Thank you. On May 4th, 2022, the Arvada City Council held a study session that determined a housing advisory committee should be created to further the city's housing goals. On November 7th, 2022, the Arvada City Council approved Resolution R22-095, a resolution establishing a housing advisory committee. This resolution included the adoption of the bylaws that govern the Housing Advisory Committee. On January 6, 2025, staff recommended revisions to the bylaws to allow for efficient scheduling of meetings and to define the term affordable housing. During the business meeting, members of City Council proposed removing the term affordable from the bylaws to expand the scope of the Housing Advisory Committee to include housing other than low and middle income. The proposed bylaws were rejected to give staff time to review Council's request. On February 10, 2025, staff held a study session with the Council to review proposed revisions to the bylaws. The term affordable was removed, and the scope of the Housing Advisory Committee was defined as meeting the housing needs outlined in the most recent version of the Arvada Housing Needs Assessment. After much discussion, it was determined that the scope of the Housing Advisory Committee would be to make recommendations to the Arvada City Council related to meeting the needs of the Housing Needs Assessment and provide input and recommendations on housing policy per City Council request. The full scope of the Housing Advisory Committee, as written in the proposed bylaws, is as follows. A, propose recommendations to support the City Council in setting the vision and policies to support affordable housing in Arvada and addressing the housing needs identified in the 2024 Housing Strategic Plan adopted by City Council on May 20th, 2024, and all future housing needs assessments that need to be evaluated and published every 6 years as required by Colorado Revised Statute 24-32-3702. B, to render advice and recommendations to the Arvada City Council using research-based recommendations and community feedback regarding the planning and implementation of city programs and services to preserve affordable housing, to preserve, sorry, my notes cut off.
And increase the supply of affordable housing needs identified in the most recent housing assessment in the city of Arvada to the extent such programs and services are supported by the city of Arvada City Council strategic plan.
Thank you, Mayor. And to facilitate, C is to facilitate community education and engagement in housing initiatives, programs, strategies, developments, and potential partnerships to support Arvada's strategic plan goal of improving access and supply of quality housing that is attainable to a broad range of income levels and meeting its diverse housing needs aligned with the identified needs and stated goals of the most recent housing assessment. And D, to provide input and recommendations on housing policy as requested by City Council. The city team believes the proposed bylaws meet the requests made by council at the February 10th study session and recommend approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Ambrose.
I'll make the motion if there's no questions.
Are there any questions or discussions from the council? I see no lights.
I move that R 25-028, a resolution revising and adopting bylaws for the Arvada Housing Advisory Committee, be approved.
Thank you. And Ms. Espinoza and the entire team, I just want to commend you for these changes. The reason why we wanted these is not to detract away from the goal of affordable housing, but rather in 20, 30 years' time, the needs of the community could be very different then. So it allows us to maintain that flexibility while also addressing the current needs that we see. So thank you very much. And with that, this passes 7-0. Finally, we have R 25-029, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the Colorado Department of Local Affairs Division of Housing to support homeless street outreach services.
The Colorado Department of Local Affairs Homelessness Resolution Program allows local governments, continuums of care, homeless service providers, and nonprofit organizations to apply for grant funding to prevent homelessness and enable individuals and families experiencing or at risk of homelessness to move towards permanent housing. On August 12, 2024, the City of Arvada submitted an application to DOLA requesting a total of $288,000 to increase resources for the following needs. First is street outreach. We requested a total of $163,000, and the funds would be used to support services such as vital documents needed for housing, bus tickets, outreach supplies, cold weather gear, and a vehicle for the homeless resolution case managers. The second item was homelessness prevention. We requested a total of $125,000, and the funds would provide rental assistance for households at risk of eviction and staff salary. On January 16, 2025, the city team was notified that DOLA awarded $88,000 to the City of Arvada for street outreach services. DOLA drafted the funding agreement and is seeking the city's approval. The Arvada team recommends approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Ambrose.
I do have a question on this. Since the requested amount was $288,000 and what came in, what came in was $88,000. I was curious as to what you're cutting back and what you'll be able to do.
So we won't be able to fund anything under homelessness prevention. So we could not offer eviction prevention services, any sort of emergency type rental funds. So we were funded under this street outreach program. So with that, we can purchase supplies that this housing case manager or homelessness case managers might need, the cold weather gear, bus tickets, anything that would fall under street outreach.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, you're going to get $88,000. If we approve this, how are you going to spend it? And I think you were touching on some of the things it could be spent on, but can you give us a better idea of what your intentions are to spend, how you're going to spend this $88,000, like bus tickets to hand out or supplies for your team or break it down a little bit for us.
Sure. So I think some of that is yet to be determined over the course of the next year. This is a one-year grant. So coming up on the next cold weather season, that will, if there's gaps identified in the types of supplies needed for the next cold weather season, we could use some of these funds to support those efforts. So I don't have an exact breakdown of the amounts for each of the services, but we do use some funding for vital documents, so this could support our purchase of more vital documents to help people obtain housing. Again, we just don't have a lot of resources for these supplies as it is, so this will help us enhance the services that we already offer.
What are vital documents?
Driver's license, social security cards, birth certificates, oftentimes those are required in order to obtain housing, to obtain benefits. They cost money. Birth certificates and driver's licenses do.
So you'd be handing that money out to individuals so that they could get those things?
We purchase the documents directly from Vital Statistics or the DMV.
You buy them for them. Do you have any intention of using any of this money to hire consultants to do things or subcontract out this street outreach?
So under a different DOLA grant that we have, the Transformational Homeless Response Grant, we do have a street outreach component there where we are under contract with Family Tree, and they are doing street outreach services. One idea is to use this grant to buy supplies to support that street outreach team, but that decision has not been made as of yet.
And that's a case where we're just turning that grant money over to Family Tree to let them just keep doing what they're currently doing?
So they are conducting street outreach in partnership with our homeless case managers. So that is an ongoing project that we have now. So that the other DOLA grant pays for someone's salary in order to go out there and offer the services. But we are running short on a budget for the supplies needed for the homeless street outreach so that person can offer supplies to the people that they are encountering on the street. So this grant could be used for that.
Are we the exclusive funder of Family Tree's street outreach?
No.
And
No,
so,
I don't believe so.
So we're part of their funding mix for them to go do their thing. How do we get to direct them on what they do, who they talk to, how they talk to, what the outcome they're looking for? Who's in charge? Are they in charge or are we in charge? Given that we're passing money through to them, do we have any say in what they do and how they do it? And can you enlighten us on that?
Sure. So that doesn't fall under this grant. I just want to make that known. But under the DOLA THR grant, there are outcomes. There are quarterly reports that we have to send into DOLA every 3 months. And so we are in conversation with DOLA to assist them in meeting the grant requirements, essentially. The homeless resolution case managers are in contact with Family Tree quite often on a regular basis. And Hudson, feel free to jump in if you have more detail. But the case managers are in contact with Family Tree to ensure that the grant requirements on the compliance side are met, but also in terms of, they do case conferencing with the individuals that they come across and need to make sure that that it's not Family Tree out there alone offering these services. The city and the city's case managers can support them, but it is very much a partnership.
All right. Okay. So are we able to use any of those grant funds to fund our own efforts, or are we just funding our own efforts and turning grant funds over to somebody else?
We can fund our own efforts if that's what we want to do, sure.
Well, it sounds like we're making efforts, right? You mentioned we have homeless outreach people on staff, right?
We have the homelessness resolution case managers, yes.
Yeah. And so we're not using that other grant, rather than using it to offset the costs of that, we're instead turning that over to Family Tree to do street outreach?
Well, one of the specific programs that we applied for under the THR grant was street outreach. And so We know that there are groups out there that excel at providing street outreach services, so the thought at the time was that we would partner with that agency rather than running it internally. That would free up the time of the case managers to then focus on other efforts. There's a lot of need out there for services, so
Okay.
that would allow them to focus on in other areas.
Okay. So this grant we're getting now, are there any strings or restrictions on what we spend this money on?
It has to be specific to street outreach. So it could be used to pay for someone's salary. It could be used for those services that I mentioned in the packet. So again, the vital documents, bus tickets, all those services that we currently don't have really the funds to pay for. We are very limited in our homelessness funding. So this would allow the case managers some flexibility to offer additional services.
And who will you or your team be managing that money and ensuring that it's spent appropriately and spent completely but not spent completely too quick, or whatever, managing what happens here? Or is there another process by which that outflow of this grant gets done?
My team oversees the grant
You people
compliance.
do it.
Yes.
So would it be possible for you to give us an update halfway through the year or something like that and just say, look, we got $88,000, here's what we've spent it on so far?
Absolutely.
Here's what we intend to spend the rest of it on, here's how we're gonna spend it in time, and, it seems like if we've gotten this grant, the best thing would be for us to spend it all.
Yes.
And also spend it all to the greatest effect, not just, wait until the end when there's money left over and go, oh, shoot, let's just buy a bunch of stuff,
Right.
And so I'd love to see some kind of a report to us so that we know that that thing's being done the best it can be.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Councilmember Ambrose?
Yeah, Ms. Espinoza, do you know how many, for the homeless that are in Jefferson County, how many of them are from Arvada? Have you seen the county statistics on this?
I'm going to turn to Hudson to see if he knows the number.
Good evening. It's somewhere around 200, ma'am, of the 925 in Jefferson County.
So it's 200 people out of the 900 in Jefferson County are from Arvada?
Are in Arvada, probably from Arvada. It's a very hard number to conceptualize, but it's anywhere above 100 is what we're guessing, ma'am.
Okay, and what's the demographics, age-wise? Are the majority of them seniors, families, kids?
Yeah, it's a great question. Majority of those clients are over the age of 40.
Okay.
Majority of those people had jobs or careers and they fell on hard times, and then in their midlife kind of fell into homelessness. So usually above 40, ma'am.
So you're saying the majority of the homeless we serve have jobs, but they don't have homes?
They had jobs at one point or
Oh, okay.
careers or something of that sort, and then lost their jobs and ended up on hard times, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make the motion if there's no other questions.
I have a couple of quick follow-up questions. So these were inspired by the conversation about the street outreach officer. I actually have been meaning to ask these for a while now. Do we have an update on when the permanent supportive housing complex Family Tree is going to be the operator for? Do we know when that's going to be opening? I know it's been going up, I just don't have an opening date.
I believe it's later this year. It's coming up soon. I don't have the exact date.
And the street outreach officer, I believe I heard one was hired. One of the key goals of this grant support is specifically to work with individuals in Arvada, namely Old Town, but not limited to Old Town, to try and not only get them engaged with services and on the right track, but ultimately to try and get them to move into residency at that building or perhaps elsewhere, correct? That is a key goal?
Yes, that is a goal, yes.
Okay, great. And these funds go to support those efforts?
They do. The street outreach team, the ultimate goal is to get folks into housing, specifically permanent supportive housing, if that is the need. So yes, that is the direction that we're going in.
Okay, thank you. And then I recognize we're using jargon here. Could you give us a quick definition of what permanent supportive housing is versus regular housing?
Permanent supportive housing is housing in addition to supportive services, so wraparound services depending on the need of the individual. Customized services will be offered to ensure that they maintain housing stability.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you. So this is off topic a little bit, but you are saying that the street outreach folks are contacting people with a goal of getting them into permanent supportive housing. What about those folks who don't want permanent supportive housing?
Do you want me to take it? Okay. I'll take a shot at it, and Hudson, please jump in. So I think for folks, everyone is at a different step in their journey. So some people are ready to make that leap and are ready to take the next steps to go into housing. Other folks, they need other interventions first. They might need rehabilitation services, a variety of other services before they're ready to go into housing. And so that's what the street outreach team is doing, is while the ultimate goal is housing, there may be many more steps for some folks in order to get them there. But it's important for us to follow those steps and ensure that they have those additional services so that we can ultimately get them there.
May I provide a story?
Please.
There was a client that grew up in Arvada, went to Arvada High School, and that client's been homeless on the streets in Arvada for 6+ years. And that client was one that was deemed didn't want housing, was kind of that deemed, and had a conversation with him last week. I said, what do you want? What is something that you desire? What is something that you want? What do you want at the end of the day? What is something you desire? And he just came and said, I just want my own space. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how I get it, I just want my own space. And so today he actually filled out an application for a sober living program out in Fort Lyon, and hopefully that'll go through next week. So I just want to give that example of sometimes it's not the conversation of do you want permanent supportive housing, it's the question of what do you want and how do we make that work for that individual, and that's really the work that we do.
Thank you, Hudson. All right, with that, Councilmember Ambrose, you have the motion.
I move that R25-029, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the Colorado Department of Local Affairs Division of Housing to support homeless street outreach services be approved.
Councilmember Pfeiffer, you wish to speak?
Yeah, your statement's impactful because we sit up here and this council, all of us, are trying to prescribe what the solution is. And I think what you just said is the solution. By simply asking, what do you need? Instead of all of us sitting up here dictating what we think should be done, it's as simple as asking the question of the individual and taking care of each individual for their individual needs. I think that, trying to build housing, navigation center, whatever those are just ideas from us sitting on a dais. But at the end of the day, it's really impactful that you said, what do you need? And you made something real for somebody. And hopefully you put them on the right journey in the right direction. So I just want to tell you that was meaningful, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, with that, passes 7-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Espinoza. Thank you, Hudson. All right, we have no first readings this evening, so I'll move straight into the public hearings for those folks who have been ready to go for that. All right, I will open the public hearing for R25-030, a resolution setting forth certain findings of fact and conclusions as to the annexation of certain land into the city of Arvada, Colorado, a section of 64th Avenue right-of-way approximately located at 15812 West 64th Avenue. Ms. Morris, I believe this first item is more of a cleanup item.
I can jump in, if you will, Mayor. Yes, if these will be done together. So if you wanted to just read each item, the resolution is something that's mandated by the state, but it is part and parcel with annexation. That is the following ordinance. So we usually treat it as one hearing for both items.
Okay.
But we will vote on each one.
Okay.
The resolution first.
Separately. Okay, and with that, then I will also open CB 25-003, an ordinance annexing certain land into the city of Arvada, a section of 64th Avenue right-of-way approximately located at 15812 West 64th Avenue in the city of Arvada, County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, ordinance number 4889. And Mr. Smetana, Planning Manager, you have this one.
Thank you. The applicant, in coordination with the city, is requesting annexation of a portion of 64th Avenue right-of-way adjacent to the property at 15812 West 64th. Due to an oversight with a previous annexation, this property remained in the county. This request simply corrects this oversight and would annex a portion of the right-of-way that has already been developed for a roadway and is owned by the city. No development approvals are related to this request. Following a public hearing during their November 12th meeting, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the annexation. Notice for the hearing was provided through publication in the local paper, mailed notice, and signed posting on the property, and we have received the signed posting log and mailing affidavit, and they are in order. We do have a representative from the applicant's team here for any questions. And I am also available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. For anyone who wishes to speak on this item or the applicant who plans to answer questions, I would ask you to raise your right hand simply to say, and follow me, I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. All right, thank you so much. With that, I would like to invite the applicant. Would you like to bring anything at this time?
Good evening. I'm Tom McHale. I'm the applicant along with my two sons. We have a small development company that where we build infill housing throughout the metro area. I live in Littleton. We've done small projects in Littleton. We've done a project in Denver, and I think we're almost 3 years in the making of trying to start construction on this project. But the only thing I really wanted to comment on was, when we went to buy the property a number of years ago, and had meetings with the various departments, we were informed that, the annexation had occurred. So this kind of came as a surprise to us. There's been a modest delay associated with this. And all these delays actually, they add up. It's real money to my sons and myself. So appreciate getting this cleaned up. But, frankly, we're surprised that we're here tonight, based on, our initial inquiry into the annexation.
Thank you. I would like to invite open public comment at this time. Ms. Carol Rose.
I didn't think I was prepared, but thank you. I found an email from my husband who's out of the country. So good evening, Mayor Simpson and Councilman. My name is Carol Rose, and I reside at 15902 West 64th Avenue. I'd like to read an email that my husband, Paul Rose, wrote to Shane Greenberg on November 13th of 2024. At that time, he was the project planner for 15812 West 64th Ave development. I'm not sure if Shane is still involved with this project, as the name on the most recent notice of public hearing had the name Rob Smetana, I hope I said it right, as the staff contact. I will also say that we were out of the country and came home just a few days before the November 12th or 13th meeting that was mentioned, and frankly completely missed it because the letter arrived in our mailbox in the time that we were gone, which was about 2.5 weeks. So the email is, Shane, thank you for sharing planning details for this proposed development with my wife, Carol. You mentioned that the project is not yet approved and the comments are invited. Having looked at the project plans, I have a number of concerns. The most obvious one is that the project will destroy the value of our home. I cannot imagine a buyer for a home with such a large project going on in such close proximity. Secondly, the long-term construction will eliminate any sense of peace and quiet that we currently enjoy at the rear of our property. I see that the access road to the proposed development will directly abut our eastern property boundary, and that 4 of the proposed 25 units will be built in the same area. Backyard privacy, especially around our swimming pool, that came with the house. We didn't really care about a swimming pool. We didn't build a house. Will be a thing of the past. Not only am I worried about privacy, but also security. Since there will be, we believe, 25 units zoned R13, I guess 13 allowed for an acre, that type of client that such a development will attract is an unknown factor at present. Finally, I'm very concerned about future drainage issues. When we moved into 15902 West 64th Avenue about 4 years ago, We inherited an undisclosed by the seller drainage problem, among many others, that Arvada Water insisted we fix. We did this part of the issues that we encountered at a cost of $80,000. My husband, as a trained geoscientist, I foresee that the drainage issues will be greatly exacerbated by this development. I hope you will consider these concerns carefully before this disastrous project is approved. And an interesting question is, why is the right-of-way being moved to the west where there are residential homes as opposed to the east where there's Kohl's department store? So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I will open it to council questions or discussion. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I don't have any questions, but I can make the motion when you're ready. Maybe for a minute, could we just put the map up? Just so
Sure.
we can explain that what's being annexed is really the sidewalks.
Yeah, we
It's
can
not the
absolutely
property
do that.
itself, because that
Yeah.
hearing is passed.
Correct. So I just wanted to make sure that we note for the record, I understand that we have people, or we have an individual who had commented on the project itself. What we're talking about today is simply the right-of-way and annexing the right-of-way within the city. We're not talking about an overall larger project, as Councilmember Pfeiffer noted. I also wanted to note really quick for the record, and I think this is what Mayor Simpson, you were alluding to earlier, because this right-of-way, this property is owned entirely by the city, we are asking that council waive the requirement for an annexation agreement. And essentially what this is, and really I guess what we're asking is whether or not anyone on council has an objection to staff waiving the requirement for an annexation agreement. What that would involve usually is an agreement between the city and the property owner. But since we are both the city and the property owner, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for us to enter into an annexation agreement with ourselves. So we have not included that in the annexation packet. So unless a member of council has any objection to that, that's how we'll proceed. And I just wanted to make sure I noted that for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. I see no other lights. Councilmember Pfeiffer, you may proceed with the motion.
All right. I move that Resolution 25-030, resolution setting forth certain findings of fact and conclusions as to the annexation of certain land into the city of Arvada, Colorado, a section of 64th Avenue right-of-way approximately located at 15812 West 64th Avenue be approved.
Thank you very much. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you very much. And then Councilmember Pfeiffer, go ahead with the second motion as well.
Okay. I move that Council Bill 25-003, an ordinance annexing certain land into the city of Arvada, a section of 64th Avenue right-of-way approximately located at 15812 West 64th Avenue in the city of Arvada, County of Jefferson, and state of Colorado, be approved on final finding, reading, number 4889, and order published by title only. Where do I put the waiving? Does that have to be a motion? Are we good?
It doesn't have to be a motion. I just wanted to make sure that council didn't have any objection to us proceeding in that fashion.
Okay.
Thank you for asking, though.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. And to the resident, we understand your concerns with the project. It's certainly not lost on us. Legally, we are obliged to consider the nature of the hearing itself and not any external conditions. And this is simply something we're voting on to, well, annex our own land and back into the city, I guess. So with that, that passes 7-0. Thank you very much. I will close this evening's hearings, open it for second public comment. We have one person signed up for this evening's second public comment, and that is Len Clemens.
I was wondering if I could use this also. It's Lynn Clemens, 6202 Kilmer Loop, Unit 102, Arvada, and I'm the president of the Westwood Villas HOA. I'd like to speak to you today about the Heritage Canal Trail, also known as the Farmers Highline Canal Trail. And I have a little bit of a timeline today. That's why I wanted just a little more time. In February of 1981, there was an article in the Golden Transcript that talked about at the Fairmont Improvement Association meeting, it was stated by an architect that was working with CSMRI. A trail is projected east of the Farmers Highline Canal to connect trails in the open space plan for Fairmont, and that was back in 1981. And then I looking for information about this trail, Farmers Highline Canal Trail, I found an article in the Golden Transcript again, and in April 15th, April 15th, 1991, there was a BCC meeting, Board of County Commissioners meeting, at which a resolution was passed authorizing open space to obtain an appraisal, survey, and title commitment and to enter into negotiations for acquisition of the Farmers Highline Canal Trail, a 15-mile trail corridor from Clear Creek to Stanley Lake. And I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if that's working.
Ma'am, I apologize. We're having a couple of technical difficulties, so we're not able to project it up onto the screen right now. We're
Okay.
happy to circulate that and leave it with council so that they can see it after you're done with your public
That would be
comment.
great. I was kind of hoping to use your electronics here. But anyway, there was a resolution passed in 1991 for the 15-mile trail corridor from Clear Creek to Stanley Lake. And that was something that we just recently have revealed due to a lot of research into our history. Then on 9/11/2000, signed by Arvada Mayor Feldman, there was an annexation and development agreement for the Howard property to be annexed into Arvada, which includes a trail easement dedicated upon approval of the city along the east side of the Farmers Highline Canal, including an easement connection to Hyatt Lake at the southern end of the property. I kind of hope you're getting the timeline here. Then in 2006, Westwood Villas was built. Why was Westwood Villas built so close to a canal? One of my buildings is 11 feet from the canal, the other one is 13 feet from the canal. Why would we build so close to the canal? Well, as it turns out, in the year 2000, there was a annexation and development agreement, the Howard property, that actually gave the city a trail easement. So the city has a trail easement as of the year 2000 along the Highline Canal, a trail easement of adequate width along the entire east side of the Farmers Highline Canal, including an easement connection to Hyatt Lake at the southern end of the property. So we've got a timeline here from 1981, 1991, 2000, my building's in 2006. Then in 2016, all of a sudden, in 2016, the proposed Heritage Canal Trail was actually included in the 2016 Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan prepared by Jefferson County Open Space, Arvada Parks, and Westminster. Why would they include that in a master plan if they didn't have an idea that the easements were there? Forward to 2022, 2024, all of a sudden, the 40-acre property along the Farmers Highline Canal, which the Heritage Canal Trail and part of the Farmers Highline Canal Trail is being bought by someone and putting a development on that. What is going to happen to the easements, the trail easements that are obviously along this part of the Farmers Highline Canal? If we don't preserve the easements, if we don't find out where all those easements are, the community is going to lose the opportunity to complete this trail from Van Bibber up to Ralston Creek Trail. And if we fast forward one more time to March 10th, which was the second meeting of the Board of Adjustment hearing, there are comments from Scott Carlson, the owner of the 5950 McIntyre Street property. During this meeting, he said about the trail easements, "We'd love there to be one. We fully support trails in the area. Easements are multi-jurisdictional. It would be the county, it would be Arvada, it would be the ditch company." Well, the county, Jefferson County Open Space, they should have easements.
Ms. Clemens?
The city of Arvada has easements.
Quickly, your time has expired, but because we
Okay.
had technical difficulties, I'll give you about 30 more seconds to conclude.
Okay. So obviously, easements are there. I'm on a mission to find them through Jefferson County Open Space. If I have to sit through and sift through all kinds of old documents. I went to the county, to the county budgets from 92 to 97, and actually found money dedicated to the Farmers Highline Canal in their budgets. So easements are there, we will find them, and I believe I have a copy of what was said by Scott Carlson on March 10th. I'm going to give this to you, and he is supportive of these easements and the trail. So I would like to put that in the record.
Thank you very much. We will. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of this evening's agenda, and I will open it to the City Council for council reports. Councilmember Ambrose.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I have started doing coffee meets on the fourth Friday, but I can't this month because of our strategic planning session. So I will instead be meeting people at Heaven Creamery this Friday, the 21st, from noon to 3. And that's it for me.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of announcements to share with council and the public. One was today we had the Construction Defect Reform Bill, House Bill 25-1272, was heard in the House Transportation, Housing, and Local Government, and I testified on behalf of our city in support. This would reform construction defect law and address litigation issues that make it very difficult to build important housing that we need, the missing middle that we often talk about, condominiums in particular. So this reform would really help with the development of that much needed housing and alleviate the strain of our city resources caused by litigation. So I'm excited to report that after several hours of testimony, it passed 12-1 out of committee. And I believe it's headed to the Committee of the Whole, which is the House floor. So excited about that and glad that I was able to participate in that. The other thing that I wanted to report on is the mayor and I went to the National League of Cities last week in Washington, D.C. I spoke to our senators and asked for help with mental health beds and facilities in the state, because that, as we know, that is a needed resource for us, especially at the local level as we're trying to address homelessness and have availability of those facilities for resources for our residents. So I did make that request of our senators to get help from that. And then finally, as was mentioned earlier, I will not be doing a coffee chat this month. Instead, we'll be doing a town hall. That will be on March 29th, Saturday at 10 a.m. at First United Church of Arvada, and that'll be in collaboration with Representative Tatone, Representative Ferre, our state representatives for the city of Arvada, and County Commissioner Zenzinger. So invite all to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Well, since we're on the theme of that, I'm also going to have a District 4 with Representative Tatone, Commissioner Zenzinger, Senator Cutter, and myself, and the Candelas community room in Parkview on the 29th. We're not sure the time. I was hoping I was get the time, but it's going to be early afternoon, so probably around 1 or 2. So keep a lookout on social media. But the four of us will be meeting there to meet with the community. So that's going on. The other thing I wanted to just bring up real quick is appreciate the staff putting the fire department board with us tonight. I think that was great that we were all together and was able. We haven't done those group dinners. I think we have one this Wednesday. Is it this Wednesday? With the Board of County Commissioners in Adams County? Next Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to that. I will tell you they wish it was that Mexican restaurant there on the lake, not Spaghetti Factory. So we might get some complaints. And I think that's about it, but I'm glad everyone's safe back from NLC. I hope you guys had a good trip, and thank you, staff, for keeping everything orderly while we were away. Not me, but them.
All right. Thank you very much. We had a very good trip to NLC. Thank you, Councilmember Pfeiffer. It was really useful, particularly with the changes at the federal level, new administration, learning about some of their priorities as we seek to advance projects here in the city. So that was useful for us. I have a few announcements myself. First, I want to congratulate Ms. Carrie Briscoe. She has been the deputy at the Arvada Urban Renewal Board, and she has just been announced as the incoming next executive director of ORA. So congratulations to Ms. Briscoe. That is very exciting news for her, and we look forward to her leadership of that important board. Second, Councilmember Pfeiffer's thanks to the Arvada Fire for joining us for dinner. The wildfire protection plan, it's sobering, but at the same time, we are certainly making good progress in the right direction. This is a sort of a behemoth of a project, so congratulations to the team. It came with lots of fantastic ideas, things we can actually do, areas we can work to make progress on, as well as things the community can do. And I'm sure you guys will be hearing more about that. Ms. Clemens, I'm sure you and your board will certainly be very interested in some of those ideas as well to how to harden our community. So thank you for that, team. Great, great work. Next, I want to welcome the Colorado Rangers to Arvada. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, the Colorado Rangers are a volunteer law enforcement agency operated under the state. They are fully trained, insured, bonded, all of those things. We have asked them to support us with some of the security issues you heard about in public comment this evening in Old Town, to help us manage some of those, to protect our most vulnerable residents, and also to help with community events, of which St. Patrick's Day was this past weekend. Phenomenal job. It is the busiest day in Old Town each year. The Rangers were out to help with that, and it was a grand time, helped by all. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon, Councilmember Davis, I know we were all working the Kiwanis booth together. I'm sure others were all out there, so thank you all so much. That was an awesome, awesome event. Happy spring break to all the children in Arvada. I know mine is not the only one excited to be out of school this week. And finally, congratulations to the Greater Arvada Chamber of Commerce for an extremely successful 100th anniversary celebration a little over a week ago. It was a phenomenal event, and just a huge congrats to our important partners there. All right, Ms. Haley, to you.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, we do have a workshop next week. We are going to be talking about street light acquisition. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Ms. Morris.
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
All right, with that, we stand adjourned.